Welcome to Special Collections and Archives, a part of the Missouri State University Libraries. We're glad you can join us to hear more about the Shannon County documentary projects, past, present, and future. I'm Shannon Mawhinney, Digital Archivist with Special Collections and Archives. Joining me today are Shannon Kay, Executive Director of Carbon Trace Productions, and Dr. Klein with Missouri State University's Media, Journalism, and Film Department. In Special Collections, we're working to preserve the history of the Ozarks, including people, businesses, and places. Today, we're going to share with you about Shannon County specifically, the two-part documentary released in 1981, the Missouri Humanities Council Oral Histories Grant Project from 2020 to 2021, and plans for a brand new documentary. In 1978, work began on a documentary focused on Shannon County, funded by the National Endowment for the Humanities. Nestled in the center of the Ozarks, Shannon County was an interesting place in time.
There are 3 towns. The largest has a population of 850. This is Eminence, the county seat, population 630. The county has no doctors, no dentists, no shopping centers, no bowling alleys, no theaters. There is one county newspaper, the Current Wave. It's been published since the 1870s, and its motto is Shannon County first, the world afterward.
Much of the modernization of the late 20th century hadn't reached this remote area of the Ozark Mountains. Many people still embraced older ways of life, such as farming and logging with horses, blacksmithing tools, building brush arbors for church revivals, and cooking without electricity.
Whoop. Whoop. Come back. Yeah. Whoop. Yeah. 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 Whoa. What we cut in now? 12 all these or...
How long can you work a horse like that?
Working steady about a half a day is about all one can. About all you want to stand. They'll work longer and still do all right.
Well, how much land make?
It's a lot easier on them working about half a day. He gets hot while he works, but then he cools back off.
The making of a fishing gig is a good symbol for the best of the old ways. Slow, careful craftsmanship, resulting in something useful and beautiful as well.
Now, boys, this is conserving energy. This is old posts that have rotted off and hauled in and made up into cookwood.
Why do you still cook on a wood stove?
Well, I'm not very much of a hand for change. I don't like to see things change too much. And I have 500 acres of timber here, and a man's a damn fool to pay for electricity when he can go out and cut his wood. It's falling down rotting on.
When did you get that stove?
I got it somewhere between 34 and 40. I don't know what year it was. And it cost, as I recall, about $85. And I can remember the shipping weight on it is 485 pounds crated. I can remember that, because I had to carry it about as far as from here at the creek after we got it home. When we bought it, we were poor. We didn't have a lot of money. Practically no money. And I told my wife, I said, now you go ahead and pick out the kind of cook stove you want, because I said it might cost you $15 or $20 more to get the kinds you want, but I said, you likely use it for 20 years. Well, we've used it for over 40. I said, the extra cost won't amount to anything. And I still feel like it's pretty good advice.
The county was also in a state of flux, with more modern influences like industrialization and tourism affecting the area's way of life and its future.
There are 3 small factories in Shannon County, and nearly all of the employees are women. So the girls find it easier to get a job here than the boys. Claude Treeman's factory is 1 mile west of the Shannon County line. It makes coin change mechanisms that are shipped all over the world.
What made you bring one of your factories down here?
Well, I think that's part of falling in love with the town, just giving them some work. The town needs an infusion of money and industry and a few other things.
What does this place have to offer to industry?
Well, I think the biggest thing it has to offer is a good labor market and a very serene and nice climate for industrial climate for working.
This is one of the particular different varieties what we make. Here at Mountain View, we'll do all the metal work. All the plastics will be done still in St. Louis and Puerto Rico. It's simply a coin acceptor that will accept a quarter, a dime, and a nickel, reject a penny. A particular one could go in a telephone or whatever. We hope it never fails. When Claude first came to there, he was, the acceptance is not what it is today. And still today, there's a lot of people I feel like they're afraid of Claude. I don't know whether they're afraid of Claude or what he represents. It's changed a lot now that they can visually see what he's going to do, because so many people in this area have said, I'm going to do this or that, and that's as far as it got, just in the talking stages. And he's actually, what he said he's going to do, he's done that and more.
Claude Treeman continues to do more. He is already doubling the size of his facilities here.
with this plant that we're going to build, we'll have electronic development, electronic assembly, electronic repair, electronic design. I suppose when we're through with it, we'll have 150, 200 jobs.
The aspect of the human or everyday great things about living in the Ozarks, the face-to-face contact and knowing people by name and rather than by number or just another employee, part of this part of the country is what's so great about it. And yet we can have that and have a thriving industry which ships parts to, who knows where, all over the world. And you know, some people think maybe you can't have this along with the old adage of just country living. Yet I see no reason you can't have it, and I think the blend is great.
Hey, we're going to have a little bluegrass music. This is one of the old time ones. Melody and Larry's going to do the picking on it. She'll be coming around the mountain when she comes.
Did you know a lot of people in this area that were wanting to do what you did?
Hundreds.
Yes,
We sure do.
some family or some group wanting
And
to.
some of them are much better than we are. We know
Oh.
it. That's why we feel so fortunate.
Some glad morning when this life is o'er, I'll fly away to a home on God's celestial shore. I'll fly away. I'll fly away, oh glory. I'll fly away, morning when I die. Hallelujah, bye bye. I'll fly away.
A group of local historians recognized the opportunity to capture what made Shannon County unique. Led by producer Bob Moore, historian Lynn Morrow, and Missouri State University faculty member Robert Flanders, a team spent several months getting the footage they needed for the documentary. In 1978 and 1979, they gathered hundreds of hours of film. They interviewed individuals, attended church services, went to community events, and explored Shannon County's hills, rivers, and forests. The result was A Portrait of the Ozarks, a two-part documentary released in 1981. The first part, subtitled Home, focused more on the past, while the second, Parts of the Children, focused on changes and the future of the county. The documentary touched on a number of topics such as politics, education, kinship, religion, employment, and lost skills. Initially, the documentary was shown on PBS as well as at many public events and in classrooms. Today, it's available on the Missouri State University Library's YouTube channel. But there's much more to the Shannon County collection at MSU than just the documentaries. In 2004, the producer, Bob Moore, contacted Special Collections and Archives to talk about the film materials still in his possession. For nearly 25 years, he had held onto the supporting materials and wondered if MSU would like to have them. We were ecstatic. The approximately 75 cubic feet of material includes raw footage of interviews and events, producers' logs and notes, photographs, and other material detailing the project. In a change from most donations, this one basically included the donor. Mr. Moore was ready to retire and move back to the Ozarks. We were lucky that he was willing to volunteer to help us understand and organize the collection. With grant support from the Missouri State Library's Digital Imaging Grant Program, we were able to put over 100 digitized camera rolls online. Each roll varies between 2 and 12 minutes and consists of the original outtakes from the final documentaries. While the documentary may take a few seconds from particular interviews, the camera rolls contain the interviews in their entireties.
What's it like down here when it gets winter? It's pretty cold.
I've seen it awful cold.
How do you heat?
For just a few examples, visitors to the YouTube channel can watch an interview with Lon Hogan, who was 97 years old in the late 1970s and the oldest resident of Shannon County at the time.
If you could tell us a little bit about the way you used to go out on, people would gather Sunday afternoons and stuff.
Well, it wasn't only Sunday afternoon, or usually after Sunday school. I had 12 double plate holders. This part of the time I used a 5x7, but my favorite camera was 6.5, 8.5.
Dorothy Ennis and her mother, Dorothy Hunter, talked to the documentary team about digging for and selling herbs during the Great Depression and appreciation for the beauty in nature.
See, Mom?
Yeah.
This one's real lacy and it has no odor at all, though.
Oh, yeah.
Does this one still have some?
Not too much. I imagine the heat's.
They're very definitely different.
Yeah.
Notice the. Here's no comparison. I'll have to get my horticulturist over and see if
it's really
actually a mock orange. It may not be.
Maybe something else.
Very definitely may not be.
That's what you bought it for, though.
Because I bought this flower because I have 1 to 2 to 3 of about everything that I know, and I didn't have this one. And this is its first year to bloom. And it's very different.
Alex Outlaw with the National Park Service was interviewed about Alley Mill, the Ozark National Scenic Riverways, and local reactions to park policies, both positive and negative. Bill and Betty Burns, then more recent transplants to the county, discussed their experience of moving from a large city to the area and the differences in culture they observed.
The only industries are timber, basically, and if you have a education, you can teach and stuff, but if you come down here and don't know anything, you don't go out and work in the timber. It takes a certain amount of skill and learning, and then you have to have the equipment and the tools for it.
One thing about the area is it doesn't matter if you don't have much money. It doesn't matter if you're not dressed as well as other folks and things like that. It really doesn't matter, to the other people. And it's just a matter of what you want. There's not the stigma about your kids have to be real well dressed and everything like that. So.
We hope you'll visit the YouTube channel to see the documentary and browse the camera rolls to step back in time to a special place in Ozarks. All right, now I'm going to turn you over to Shannon Kay from Carbon Trace Productions.
I just want to start off by thanking everyone for having me on this panel and giving me the opportunity to really talk about why documenting folks in their own words is so important. Now, I've had the privilege of working with some amazing people over the course of this project. The original film, A Portrait of the Ozarks, that you heard about from Shannon earlier, examined the question, what is left of traditionalism in the Ozarks? Well, we believe that that question still resonates with people today. Now let's back up a little. The fantastic people working at MSU Special Collections and Archives also believed that with the 40-year anniversary of A Portrait of the Ozarks quickly approaching, the folks of Shannon County deserve to be revisited. Through the chain of academia, the MSU library staff heard about our nonprofit company based just nearly blocks away from campus, Carbon Trace Productions. Now here's just some of the work that we've done. Now, it seemed to be a perfect fit, and just a few short meetings later, we were off to Shannon County to start building those relationships again with the people there. Now, this is our very first meeting with those fine folks in Shannon County at the museum on February 28th of 2020. Now, through this meeting and the people that we met there, we started what I believe to be the bedrock of documenting these oral histories. Moving forward with optimistic caution, we did plot our first trip November of 2020. Now, what you're seeing here are photos by the incredible Jim Wilson, and it's just a glimpse into the oral histories that we were able to document. Not only were we able to provide the Missouri Humanities Council with several formal oral histories, but there are several off-the-cuff interviews, behind-the-scene insights, and personal relationships that we've built since that original meeting. And what makes this even more special is that these photos and the interviews that the Carbon Trace team filmed in Shannon County were all done at a time when the world was going through significant change. While we always focused on our goal about learning about traditionalism in the age of technology, it was hard to not talk about the realities of 2020. Not only are these particular oral histories captured in Shannon County in a volatile year extremely important, but documenting various viewpoints and perspectives fills up the gaps in documented history, sometimes even correcting or contradicting the written word. Now, oral histories will allow you to feel the emotions with your subject on any given topic.
It's sheer determination, sheer will to carve out your own life. I mean, you come down here, it's an open book. The pages are blank and you can rewrite your own story. I'm gonna rewrite my own family story.
These oral histories also allow the subject to reflect on personal change and the consequences of it.
I think that, it's different now because when I was growing up, we had, it was a 2-hour trip to Springfield to go and buy what you needed for the month of groceries or things. We would do a little bit of, you had some options locally. But if you wanted a bigger selection of things, it was a 2-hour trip. We would go and we would shop for clothes once a year, and we never went to the mall. We basically just went to go and get what you needed to get. And now it's different because we have Amazon. So if you need a wedding gift, you can actually get a wedding gift for somebody. If you need a spool of thread, you can actually, so there are local things now like Walmart, because I grew up in Eminence, so we weren't close to Mountain View. So if we needed anything like that, you just had to have it on hand, or you had to wait for a while to go and get it. And
in addition to using public records, statistical data, photographs, maps, letters, diaries, and other historical materials, oral history enables people to really share their viewpoints, feelings, and thoughts into their world.
Well, we are one of the poorest counties in the state. There's not a lot of opportunity. It's been said that our two major exports are timber and high school seniors. A lot of them have to leave because there's really not a whole lot of opportunity. You know, we don't have a lot of industry.
While we can learn an awful lot from the words people use and the things they say, there's nothing like connecting with someone face to face to truly understand their plight. And it's also my hope that these oral histories, particularly any caught on video, will help to solve whatever world issues come our way in the unpredictable future. Thank you for having me.
Now we're going to talk about the new project with the new documentary with Dr. Klein.
Okay, I'm Andy Klein, and I'm going to be the film director for Portrait of the Ozarks, the sequel to the original two-part Shannon County Home and Shannon County Hearts of the Children. The original two-part film was shot on 16 millimeter. It was filmed back in the late 70s and released in 1981. And we're so lucky today to be doing the sequel. Our tools are a little better. Our tools are a little easier to use. Making, in essence, a feature-length documentary film in two parts on 16 millimeter is quite a challenge in the field, quite a challenge to edit. With our digital tools today, actually allows us to do something that began in the era of 16 millimeter, which was the rise of what we call direct cinema. And this was the type of documentary filmmaking in which you let life happen in front of you while you film and record audio. And some of the great early documentaries of that type, Salesman is one of the ones that I think of, a black and white documentary shot in 16 millimeter, in which the director follows a group of Bible salesmen through the Midwest. No one is interviewed. There's no commentary. There's no text. It is simply following these men as they go door to door and as they process their day's work in motel rooms at the end of the day. And it's a fascinating film. With our digital tools, we can go direct cinema one better in that we are not so bound to the film in that linear sort of way. We are able to shoot and record so much more because we're not burning film. We're merely recording to SD cards.
All
now we got the tags. We're ready, I think.
It's a beautiful day. And this is always fun to watch them. Every single one of them is good at it. This has been a tradition in the Ozarks for a long time. A lot of families depend on it. It's their meat source.
So what this means is that we can do the direct cinema approach, just as was done with the original, but we can spend more time and be more in depth. As an example of this, in our concept video, one of the first sequences that you see is of a family, the daughter of a Back to the Lander, and her family today. They homeschool, they run a cattle ranch. And so in the concept video, you see some moments of them homeschooling, of the children having tea and mother reading to them. But you also see a moment of formal interview.
So we homeschool in the mornings. We do family devotions together where all the kids sit and Joe reads from the Bible, and we have the kids read from the Bible as well. And we learn scripture together and we sing together.
Let's say it again. For we are God's handiwork.
For we are God's handiwork.
Created in King Jesus for good works.
Created in King Jesus for good works.
Which God prepared in advance for us to do.
Which God prepared in advance for us to do.
Right, good job.
All right, well done. Okay, we'll do some tea and then I'll read you guys some poems.
Tea.
Yeah,
William, you spelled that word on this. Sorry, can we put our...
No, this is the toaster one says, a silver-scaled dragon with jaws flaming red sits at my elbow and toasts my bread. I hand him fat slices and then one by one, he hands them back when he sees they are done.
We do what's called Tapestry of Grace, which is a homeschool curriculum for teenagers. So once a week, there's 6 teens that come to our house, and we go through history and government and philosophy.
Okay, now I want you to be angry. We the people
of the United States of America form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility.
And it's just great to be able to have them try to make connections together that they wouldn't make through Socratic discussion and asking questions, those kind of connections that you wouldn't make on your own.
And this is for look and feel. So you can compare what we've done here to some of the things that you see in the original. And the difference basically is that we can capture more and we can move scene to scene better. Because in the original 16mm, every time you hit that button, you're spending money. And so while, yes, they were engaging in direct cinema, what they were not doing was shooting everything that's happening in front of them, because every time you push that button, you're spending money because the film is going through. So you see a lot of, here is a person going into the woods and they're going to log. And then we stop and now we're going to talk to them. And then we stop and change scenes. Whereas we're able to shoot much more what we call B-roll. Scenes that play out while we listen to people speak, as well as formal interviews, as well as people talking in the moment, which is what we see in this sequence. And then the other thing that's really nice, we can interview anybody and everybody, and we are doing that. So we both interviewed for the oral history portion of this, but we also set up a studio, makeshift studio in the J&B Cafe in Eminence, Missouri, put out a call to people to come speak to us. And we sat them down and had them tell stories of their lives, which was a great way to continue to be a presence in Shannon County, especially during the time of COVID when we can't be there as much as we want to be, and allows us to collect some really fabulous stories. This next clip I want to show you is kind of hilarious.
Well, when I left there, Dale Williams pulled me over. Was city marshal at the time. So he pulls me over here at the almost out of town here, and he says, what are you doing driving, son? He could tell I wasn't 16. And I said, well, my dad sent me to town for groceries and stuff, and I just had to get some gas and get them back home to him. And he said, well, if your dad, my dad, they called him the Big Bopper, and he was rough. And he said, well, if your dad told you to come to town to get home, he said, you better hurry up and get back home. And just walked back, got in his car, and I drove off. I was like 13, 14. I don't know what I was, but I always remember that. That is what I used to love about this town too. You won't do that these days.
This fellow, by the time we were finished interviewing him and he told his story, we'd reached the end of our day and we were tearing down our makeshift studio in the J&B Cafe. He actually drove to a friend's house, drug him back to J&B, walked in and said, hey, my buddy wants to talk to you too. Unfortunately, we'd already torn down our studio, but it creates enthusiasm. Allowing people to tell their stories, which is the great strength of direct cinema. Listening to people, not imposing upon them any particular way of being, just tell me your story. This is a wonderful way to do documentary film. This is exactly how we intend to do the sequel to A Portrait of the Ozarks. And my team and I are looking forward to spending much time in Shannon County in the months ahead, listening to people's stories, and then creating a film that will add to the original. Whereas the original asked the question, what is left of traditional life in the Ozarks? We're going to be asking the question, how does traditionalism inform the lives of Ozarkers today? And we very much look forward to spending a lot of time there and listening to those stories so that you can hear them as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shannon Kay and Dr. Klein, and thank you all for joining us. We're excited to continue sharing the past with the present